Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're joined today by Dr. Ginny Baxter. She is so many things. She is on the Long Beach Community College District. She's the president of the Long Beach Community College Foundation, professor emeritus at Long Beach Community College, and an expert in first ladies. Can't wait for this interview. I want to talk about a few first ladies, and I want to start with Nancy Reagan.
Okay.
We recently lost Mrs. Reagan. Regardless of one's politics, a lot of respect for her, a lot of admiration for her. Tell me about Nancy Reagan from an historical perspective.
Well, first of all, I think Nancy Reagan, as is true of many presidents, was more appreciated after Ronnie left office. You know, she was actually made fun of because she adored her husband. And there are many first ladies who haven't adored their husband, and many presidents who had affairs and stayed married.
There was all the discussion about astrology and
well, that's the thing. She was criticized for astrology. She was criticized for purchasing china for the White House, although she got her friends to pay for it. She was criticized for her clothing, which was interesting because she used only an American designer, Jimmy Gallegos, and Jackie Kennedy, when she was First Lady, she only wore French couture.
Oh, we'll talk about that
So yeah, we'll get to that later. So it's the times and what people decide is important and not important.
What's her impact? Her lasting impact?
I think her lasting impact was two things. First of all, the devotion to her husband, which was unquestionable. And secondly, if you wanted to look at it, she could conceivably be called President of the United States, because toward the end of his administration, like Mrs. Wilson, Woodrow Wilson's wife, she had a great deal of control on who her husband saw, what he said, all those kinds of things. So I think that will probably be her lasting impact.
I want to talk about another First Lady. Her name is Hillary Clinton. Mrs. Clinton could be the President of the United States come 2017, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about her tenure as First Lady.
Well, it's interesting because Mrs. Clinton probably has one of the highest IQs of any First Lady. It's between her and actually Lou Hoover, who graduated from Stanford.
And who would have and Herbert Hoover, not a popular president.
No, that's right.
And not seen as an intelligent one, but be that as it may.
He was a very intelligent man. But anyway.
But given what happened during his tenure.
Yes. But anyway, so she graduated from law school in 1974, Yale Law School, found Bill Clinton, saw in him some potential, and, joined up with him, First Lady of Arkansas. One of the three things that she did as First Lady is, first of all, she convened a hearing to talk about health care.
This is in Arkansas.
No, in the United States.
I remember that, of course.
And she was highly criticized for that because what's the First Lady doing calling together experts on health care? And again, a lot of it has to do with timing. Second thing is, she was the only First Lady to be subpoenaed by the Congress. And that was over the Whitewater incident. Of course. And then thirdly, she's the only First Lady who went on to become Senator and Secretary of State.
Is she the only First Lady who went on to hold elective office?
Well, Eleanor Roosevelt was the U.S. representative to the United Nations, so that was an appointed office.
Okay, but an important office.
Yeah, but a very important office. But yes, she was the only one who went on to hold an elected office.
What's her impact?
Well, what's interesting, there's a book out about all the female senators. And they said, as senator, she did not want any special treatment, that she was very, very gracious. Her impact is, I think, on the power that a woman can achieve in the U.S. She's running for the presidency. She was deprived of it in 2008. She was. And so it'll be very interesting.
I want to ask about Jackie Kennedy.
Well, she's one of my favorites because I was in high school with Jackie Kennedy, and you know how formative that is. Jackie Kennedy, actually, Bill Clinton wanted to emulate John Kennedy, and part of the sexual part of Bill Clinton
one could
be attributed to John Kennedy because even before she married John Kennedy, he was having affairs. And she had second thoughts of marrying him because her father was also that kind of man.
Oh my.
And Joe Kennedy convinced her, John Kennedy's father, convinced her to marry John.
What's so interesting to me, I was not alive during the Kennedy presidency.
Oh God, don't tell me that.
As I look at tapes, and she just seems so demure and so soft-spoken. And I'm wondering if that was really calculated, because there's no doubt she is brilliant. She was a brilliant woman.
Yeah.
You know, but she came off as very kind of serene and kind of second fiddle.
It was very, very, very calculated. Jackie's mother ended up divorcing her father because of his behavior. She ended up marrying a very wealthy man, Hugh Auchincloss.
Right.
So Jackie and her sister became the stepchildren in that family. Her mother continued to have more children. They were always looked down on because they were not going to inherit all that money.
Oh, wow.
And that was part of her drive. She wanted to have money and money for her children.
Talk to us about her lasting impact, especially given the fact that she was present when her husband was assassinated, 2 young children, proceeded to get remarried, died sadly at a fairly young age.
Yes.
What was her lasting impact?
Well, I think she'll always be known for her style.
Right.
Like you said, her graciousness. She was the first lady to be on television. They were on television, but she had a
Right.
show. See, you're too
Yes,
young.
no,
You
but I
don't
know I saw
this.
clips. I saw clips.
Yeah, she took people through the White House, and because her background was in photography,
Right.
of course, she spoke both French and Spanish.
Right.
And she knew how to handle the camera. As a matter of fact, John Kennedy said, "I'm the man who brought Jackie Kennedy to Paris." He knew that she could upstage him, and they had kind of a,
And that was okay.
well, there was a little friction there because she was absolutely mobbed. I mean, and he was too. Very
I
popular.
want to go back 100 years before the Kennedys to the Lincolns.
Okay.
Talk about Mary Todd Lincoln. You know, so much we hear about she was, you know, crazy, and I use that term clinically.
Well, no, she definitely, I've talked to psychiatrists.
Right.
She was definitely bipolar.
Okay.
She was definitely obsessive compulsive. She had 100 pair of gloves. Now, why would you want? And it was the idea of
Germs.
she spent money. She was a shopaholic. Actually, she's my favorite for that
Of course.
reason. But she actually drove the Lincolns into debt because she would go to stores and buy things just
While
to buy.
her husband
While Abe Lincoln was in the White House. So and she would even try to get things for free.
Wow.
Because he was president. So when he died, these store merchants came back and said, "Give us back our merchandise." Ooh. She got to the point where she had so little money, she was selling his things like his underwear to make money.
My question, during her presidency, during his presidency, was she powerful? Did she have influence?
She did have influence on him. She was kind of a screecher. Well, a couple of things. First of all, 2 of her children died.
I have no choice.
One in the White House, and that's obviously going to affect you. But also, she had relatives who fought on the side of the Confederacy.
Oh my!
So she was accused of being a traitor. Her sister-in-law actually got a pass to come to the White House. Her husband was a Confederate officer.
Wow.
So there was a lot of hatred of her.
Right.
And so that must have gotten to her too. And Lincoln had a calming effect on her. But she was definitely suffering from depression and bipolar.
What about her lasting impact?
Well, her son put her in an insane asylum. And
Justified or not?
Well, it was not justified because what they did to people in insane asylums was horrible. They locked them up and chained them to the wall. And she had to sue her son, who was the only one who lived and wanted to be president, to get out of the insane asylum. And she ended up spending her last days with her sister in Illinois. So she had a very tragic life. And of course, saw her husband murdered. And
literally.
Literally. And so she was a fascinating person. But they did love each other. And Lincoln's biographer, Herndon, who was his law partner, he said they didn't love each other, but that's not true. He really loved her. He was devoted to her. But she was so, changeable in her behavior.
Right.
It's very difficult to do.
I have loved this conversation with Ginny Baxter. She is with the Long Beach Community College District in so many capacities. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's Charter Local Edition.